At 7:53 a.m., I stepped out of a black Cadillac in downtown Seattle. I was wearing a dark green handmade suit, Louboutin shoes, and a CEO card in my purse. I was on my way to open the largest innovation conference on the West Coast. But the receptionist didn't see me as an executive, only as someone from the delivery. And what happened next turned the hotel's reputation upside down and launched a wave of change across the industry. 7:53 a.m. I'm standing at the entrance to the Mariner Grand Hotel in the heart of Seattle. My breath is steaming slightly in the cool air, and my dark green suit catches the soft glow of the morning sun. Everything has been thought out, from the color of my manicure to the time of my arrival. I am not late. I arrived exactly as planned. The first guests are already starting to gather inside. This is my day, my conference, my project, which I have been planning for years. And then the first encounter. The receptionist, a young guy in a brand new vest, is standing by the revolving doors. He catches my eye and immediately looks away, as if I were transparent, as if I shouldn't be here. He doesn't move, doesn't offer to take the car keys, doesn't say good morning. Instead, he asks the Tesla driver to pick me up. Are you here for the conference? Let me help you, sir. I press my lips together. Nothing. No scene. I just hand the keys back to the driver and park the car myself. It doesn't matter how much money you have, you're still not one of them in their eyes. When I enter the hotel, I feel a familiar tension. It's not fear. It is fatigue. Fatigue from the fact that every time you have to prove that you are not an accident. At the reception desk is a woman with a stiff smile and no hint of warmth in her voice. She doesn't even look up. Who are you here to see? Good morning. I'm Amara Brooks, CEO of Novavis Solutions. We are holding a conference here and have rented the grand hall and 2 floors of rooms for our guests. She finally looks at me. She wrinkles her forehead. You're from the catering company? This is the second strike. No, not a direct one. But it hurts. Of course, a black woman in a business suit cannot be a manager. She's a servant. No, I say evenly, I am the organizer. And I am opening this event. Can I come through? She presses a few keys on the computer. Slowly. Theatrically. The space is not yet ready. You will have to wait. Outside. Outside? Yes. We have not yet opened access for the staff. And it's not just a prejudice anymore. It's a choice. The choice to push me out the door in the morning when I have to stand on stage presenting a new technology to hundreds of investors. A man in a gray suit walks in behind me, one of our partners. He is greeted with smiles, served coffee, and shakes hands. He walks through without being checked. I look after him and think, how many more of these little humiliations do I have to swallow before they stop confusing me with the service staff? My phone vibrates. It's Leah, my coordinator. Are you inside yet? Is everything okay? I inhale. Deeply. Slowly. No. They asked me to wait. Outside. There is silence on the other side. But not in surprise. It's outrage. She knows. We've all been there. Do you want me to come? She asks. No. They'll come in. But not just like that. I put my phone away, straighten my back, and turn to the entrance. If they don't see me as a leader, it's not my problem. But very soon it will become theirs. I re-enter the hotel. The same woman at the reception desk has the same cold eyes, like a person who is used to filtering who is allowed in and who is not. I've already notified the event coordinator, she says, not even looking at me. Wait for what? I ask evenly. I'm the CEO of a company that is renting half the building today. I have nothing to wait for. At that moment, a man in his 30s approaches us, an event's management badge flashing on his pocket, with a transmitter ear and the confidence that he hears more than he speaks. MS. Brooks, right? He stops, looks me up and down. Are you security or support staff? I told you before, I can't help but feel irritated. I'm the conference organizer. Yeah, he replies, hiding his surprise. In that case, just wait. We'll fix it. We'll fix it. As if I were a problem that needed to be neutralized. And at that very moment, Travis Monroe, one of my main investors, a big guy from Silicon Valley, the one who first believed in my project, walks through the lobby. He is greeted by 3 employees, some carrying a briefcase, some greeting him, some slipping him a cup of cappuccino. I walk over to him. Travis. He turns and smiles. Amara, you're here already? The hotel is great. Where are the others? Most of them are still on their way. I shake my head. They asked me to wait outside. His smile fades. He turns his gaze to the reception. What? Yes, I say calmly. They didn't let me in. Without a badge. No explanation. And then she appears. Gina, the event coordinator. Tall, blonde, in an elegant jacket, with a folder in her hands. When she sees me, she stops. Then comes closer, a little too smiling. Ms. Brooks. Oh, we were not informed that you had already arrived. I don't answer. I don't pretend that everything is fine. You should have been told. I've been here for 20 minutes. Travis stands next to me, hands in his pockets, watching. Gina, he says, maybe you should clarify why the CEO of the conference was not allowed to go on? Gina blushes, tries to explain something. A technical misunderstanding, changes in the schedule. The guest list hasn't been launched yet. I'm not a guest. I say quietly but firmly, this is my contract. My name is on the top line of all the documents. And it was then that I noticed that several of the conference staff were whispering. A few more look in my direction with concern. Security cameras are recording every movement. I realize that every second of this moment is already part of a bigger story. I lean over to Hina. You said I should wait. And I have been waiting. Now I ask one thing. Give me a reason not to move the whole event to another place. She turns pale. And for the first time, she is silent. Amara, Travis says, do you have a plan B? Always, I answer. I pull out my phone and dial Leah. Prepare plan Echo. If nothing changes in 20 minutes, we're leaving. All of us. The hotel does not yet know that it has lost the war before it has even started. When I left the hotel a few minutes later, it was as if the curtain had finally lifted and everyone could see what had happened. At first I asked myself, how long were they going to behave like this? Of course, they had no idea that this was the beginning of my end in their hall. My coordinator, Leah, did a great job, and in less than 20 minutes, the entire conference moved to another venue. It was the Westview Grand, one of Seattle's finest hotels, and now they knew that things weren't as simple as they looked. I stood in my car, again, but not with a sense of hopelessness or disappointment. This was not just a victory, but a plan, well thought out and precise. When we arrived at Westview, we immediately felt it. The quick response, organization, and professionalism were all there. They greeted me with smiles and even asked if I needed anything extra for the comfort of the guests. Right at that moment, I realized that when you know your worth, when your presence is not about your appearance or past, but about your actions, you will never be disrespected. While everyone was moving from one hotel to another, I remained calm. Not because I was carefree, but because true control is not about changing circumstances, but about how you handle them. And when I walked through the doors of the new location, I felt that everything that happened was not an accident. It was a test. Amara, Travis said as he walked into the room. He looked at how everything was organized. You really made the right choice. If I decided to do business, it's on my terms, I replied, smiling. But what impressed me the most was how quickly and delicately everything began to change. Other partners started writing and calling. We heard what happened, and we support your decision, each message said. Thus, the decision of one hotel to ignore my role in the event began to have consequences, and not only for them. More than half of the participants confirmed that they were moving before the lunch even started. Among them were not only big players in the tech business, but also other companies with whom we had partnership agreements. Over the next few hours, changes occurred that changed the game for the hotel. What they didn't know was that this was already starting to destroy their reputation. I felt like we just couldn't let this go unchecked. The decision of one hotel had an impact on all the others. That was the moment when I realized that choice is more than just money. I spent the evening not analyzing what had happened alone, but with investors, partners, in a room where everything was pulsating with the energy of change. We opened the conference and spoke on the big stage, in the same room where everything could have looked completely different a few hours ago. Now there was a different atmosphere in the air, support, gratitude, and understanding that we were not just spending this day together. Together we were changing the way the world looks and who has the right to be in it. A few hours before the event ended, I received a call from Gina at the Mariner Grand. Ms. Brooks, she said quietly, I want to apologize for everything that happened. We have already completed all our business. And I knew that the confession didn't matter anymore. It was a late game. You can't fix everything, I said. You just shouldn't have let it happen. Gina was silent, knowing that there was nothing more to say. We had already started moving in a different direction. I could feel the change in the air. I didn't even need to go back to the office to realize that I was changing more than just the conference script that day. After we moved the event to the Westview Grand, there was no longer any doubt that my actions would not go unchallenged. When I returned to the office after the successful completion of the event, everything was different. And not only because we had changed the venue. The whole company witnessed how one decision can change a lot. All those investors we work with now saw not just our technology, but our culture and willingness to stand our ground even when the system tries to suppress us. We haven't even reached the end of the day yet, and the calls have already started coming in. And not just from hotels trying to compensate for their mistakes. These were calls from our partners, potential clients, and investors who had never even paid attention to our projects before. They realized one thing: we are not just a company, we are a new standard for this market. Amara, said one of the partners, looking at my new strategy, you may not have expected it, but what happened with the hotel really raised us in the eyes of others. You made them look at business not as a game with money, but as a space for equality. I gathered the team for another meeting. I looked at them. They understood everything, every single one of them. And in their eyes, I see support. Not just sympathy, but real pride in the fact that we had survived. I realized that these people are behind me not because of money or positions. They are here because we have built a space where everyone feels equal. And today, when we moved this event, we didn't just change the location. We changed the rules of the game. But what happened in the hotel became even more obvious to many people. The same hotel that threw me out the door started losing customers. Calls from businessmen became less frequent. And as soon as the news of my move spread among other companies, several large corporations canceled their reservations at the Mariner Grand. No statements, no public scandals, they just left. And what they left behind was much more than any compensation. It was a silent punishment. I received a message from one of our largest investors who was not ready to provide more resources a few weeks ago. Amara, what you have done has given me a new perspective on your approach to business. We are ready to increase our investment by 15%. It's not about technology. It's about trust. You are no longer just a partner. You are a true leader. We were able to do more than just raise new money. We have changed the concept of what is important to us. I think I began to realize that success is not just about contracts, not just about the number of dollars in your account. It's about making sure that your principles are not just reflected in words, but turn into real action that everyone sees and supports. But I did not allow myself to dwell on what happened to the hotel. That was not my goal. I was not satisfied with just getting them fined or compensated. My goal was to show that we are not here to play by someone else's rules. We are here to rewrite those rules. The very next morning, a new folder with agreements was waiting for me in my office. Serious investors with whom we had just started negotiations were now ready to move forward, providing more resources and more support. It was a new stage. All these changes, all this movement through invisible barriers. If I had to choose between a short, loud scandal and quiet but strong progress, I would choose the latter. And it was at this moment that I realized that we are not just fighting for a place in the sun. We are building a new reality where equality and respect become the standard, not the exception. The process of transformation does not start when you become successful. It happens when you are faced with a choice, to succumb to the system or to create your own rules. And if you don't feel afraid at the moment of making a decision, then you are already on the way to change. I was sitting in my office, looking at the latest financial results report. We had just finished a conference, but we were already discussing plans for the next year. All these new investments, new partners, all this was not just the result of our technology. It was our reaction to injustice. My colleagues, team, investors, all of them became part of the movement. They saw not just a leader, but a person who stood by her principles. I did not give the system a chance to manipulate me. It wasn't an act of anger or revenge. It was a choice to remain myself. And, most importantly, I was ready to defend this choice, even if I had to go against the grain. A few weeks after the events at Westview Grand, I received a call from Gina at Mariner Grand. She seemed more scared than genuinely remorseful. She wasn't just apologizing. She was apologizing for the whole incident. And at that moment, I realized that their apology didn't matter. They hadn't won me. They realized that they had lost not only me, but also a part of the market, a part of their reputation that couldn't be restored with money. We want to solve this peacefully, she said, and we are ready to offer you free rooms for the next year. You can hold events in our hotel again. It doesn't matter anymore, I replied calmly. When respect comes with a discount, it becomes hollow. You had a chance to do the right thing from the beginning. I didn't feel any desire to punish them. My fight was not about that. It was a lesson, not for them, but for me. It was important to realize that my choices are not limited by their conditions. My value does not depend on what they think of me. I determine my value. I create my own rules. And then the first fruits of these lessons began to appear. What started as a small act of defiance became a real catalyst for change in the industry. Other companies that were not prepared for what happened to Mariner Graham began to reconsider their strategies. They began to pay more attention to inclusivity and equality. And, importantly, they started to notice who was really behind the changes. We started new projects, new partnerships, and this time it was not just about money. It was about our values, our principles. We were not afraid of changes. On the contrary, we initiated them. But the greatest moment came not when we signed a new agreement or received another investment. No, it was when I was sitting at the table with my team, and one of the new analysts who had been working with us for several months raised his hand. Amara, I want to say that you have changed my understanding of what it means to be a leader. Not in a way that you've taught me in books or webinars, but in a real way. Your actions show that a true leader is someone who goes their own way, regardless of what others say. I looked at him. He only confirmed what I had known for a long time. Leadership is not about being the first one on the street with a nice suit. It's about having the inner strength to stay true to yourself, even when the whole world says you have no right to be here. After that incident at the conference, I not only gained the respect of those who later began to support me. I didn't just gain new partners and investors. I gained the recognition that came from people who witnessed the situation and saw how important it is to stay true to your principles, even when all the rules seem to be against you. We don't choose the moments when they come, but we can choose how to react to them. And this time, I chose to win peacefully, not through yelling or revenge, but through confidence in my actions. Final moral: the real power is not in breaking the system, but in stopping being afraid of it. We must learn to act, even when the system puts us in last place. And then the system changes, not because of resistance, but because of our own steps forward. The game-changing choice will always be ours. That's the end of the story. It was not only an act of standing up for our rights, it was an act of revolution in the way we interact with others and define ourselves in society. Now that we look at this story, we know that change starts with each of us. All actions have consequences, and it is through our choices that we shape the world around us.